You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey, welcome back to our podcast, Cards to the Moon. This is episode 15, and I'm Clark, alongside Hyung and John, to talk all things sports cards. Now, off the top, at the day of this taping, PSA just announced an update, and the big news there is they will now be reducing their express service rate from $200 US to $150 US. And the other big news is that they hope to resume their cheaper regular service sometime in Q4 of this year. So the question for you guys is, does this change your grading strategy at all right now?
Well, for me, it doesn't, because what does that entail? Because that really isn't any incentive for me. Like they're saying that they're going from $200 to $150 on the express, or their highest service. Yeah. Okay, and then how about, but nothing about they're resuming their services in bulk or
nothing like that? Yeah, the regular service, like I mentioned, they're hoping to start in Q4. So I mean, does that make you hold your cards a bit longer? You know what I mean? To submit to PSA?
I don't know. I think I'm starting to look at alternative grading companies as well, because right. I think it's gotten to a point where, like you said, SGC is starting to come out strong and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, you kind of want to get your cards graded, right? And the ones that are going to go to PSA are going to go PSA anyways, the express, right? So
right.
I think I'm hoping that they can figure it out, because I think that's a big part that they're missing. Maybe SGC comes, hits that game strong, right? So yeah. I think more people are doing that, actually.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think we're all itching to send some cards into grading, and I'm gonna assume a lot of people are in the same boat where they're waiting for PSA. So now that they broke this news out, I'm going to assume that most people are going to wait to Q4 to see what exactly they mean by their normal service returning. Does that mean it's, back to regular prices? Does that mean that it's, the turnaround is really quick, 60 to 90 days? None of the above. I don't know. So if they come back with the service and it ends up being $55 a card or $75 a card, and there's no guarantee on when they return it, and it's another one of these, your cards come 9 to 12 months later, I think at that point, all these people who have waited for PSA, they will start to legitimately look for alternative options. And I think that's where I kind of said, I'm willing to wait a little bit more, but if they come with a hammer and it's not what I like, then I'm going to start looking at, right now I'm probably looking at SGC, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
I like their price. I like their turnaround time. I truthfully, I like the way their slabs look. So that's where I stand.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. It doesn't really change anything for me. Like, I don't have any big cards myself to want to submit at the express service level to PSA. And, all the bulk submitters right now are still waiting. But I've seen a lot of bulk submitters pivot to SGC. And the turnaround times are pretty impressive. And I think that is the big question for when PSA starts to resume regular service. How long will it take for them to get the cards back to us? If it's, they're resuming it, but it's still going to take 9 to 12 months to get it back to you. Like, I think once you get used to turnaround times of 3 to 4 weeks, it's hard to go back to wanting to submit,
Well, it changes your whole game plan too, right? Because, people do it, they pull cards and then they grade it to kind of, get the value out of it, right? So it's like, you're trying to time it, and, you have to submit it now for next year, right? For baseball, at least, right? It's like, if you want it in spring training, good luck, right? Yeah. You're probably not going to get it. So yeah, it's such a tough situation, but I think that's where opportunity lies, right? For someone like SGC, who could kind of, do the affordable grading and get the bulk bulk out there, and hopefully their slabs, from what I see, they're holding decent value, so I don't see why not.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I think we're in agreement there. And on a brief side note then, Hyung, you've been ripping a lot of packs.
Jeez, have I
lately.
ever.
But you've been getting some solid hits. Like last week you mentioned hitting the first Bowman Chrome Refractor of Bobby Witt Jr., which is insane. And then you hit another monster card. You mind if you share that with our listeners?
Not at all. I went back, I got excited. Probably shouldn't. It's like when you go in the casino, you win, and then you're like,
exactly.
Get out when you can. But, but yeah, I went back. I actually picked up a box of 2019 Bowman Draft. I was chasing Adley this time.
Right.
On the Orioles, and I pulled some bad autos. I think there was 3 autos, and then the last auto, it was orange. So I was excited because I thought it was potentially an orange Adley, right? And but then I kind of like went through it, and it was an insert. Right, so I'm like, this is a bummer. So it was an orange insert, but then it was actually a Wander Franco, numbered to 25 on card auto. Yeah, which was crazy. It's a huge pull because I guess that was the big chase card. In 2019 Bowman, right? This would be Bowman Draft, so on the tail end, right? So yeah, it was amazing. It was. One of those things where you're not supposed to go back, but it paid off.
That's a beauty. Yeah, man. I think we joked afterwards, Johnny and I, that we're gonna hit up that card store.
Yeah,
too.
it's right? Collector's Dream up in Richmond Hill. There you go. Yeah.
Shout out to Collector's Dream.
There you go.
Awesome. Okay, with that, let's start the show with hobby headlines. So it's a big week for football fans with the start of another NFL season. In fact, week 1 will already have started by the time this episode airs. So I thought we can go into some QB picks that we like for the 2021-2022 season from a sports card perspective. And more specifically, I want to hear 1 or 2 picks of players you think that can take that next step this season where their card value can really see a jump. So guys like Mahomes or Brady might not be on this list since, their prices are already sky high. But maybe we're thinking about underrated rookies or second or third year types coming off a down year. Something like that. So I guess it doesn't have to be a QB. But yeah, do you know any players that you think of that can really see a jump in value by their performance on the field?
For me, I think one that stands out in terms of value for cards, it's like we talk about this all the time with basketball is, after the 3rd or 4th year, a player kind of, fizzles down in terms of the hype. He becomes an all-star, ends up doing great things, but then values kind of take a dip. That's where I'm kind of leaning with Dak Prescott, actually. I think some of his cards are really, really cheap. Especially he has like that field level select, super low pop, but it's very, very affordable. And I think one really good season potentially this year could definitely change the value for sure.
That's a good pick. I like it.
Nice.
I do. I'm bullish on Josh Allen as well. I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and also excited about the young guns. The Trevor Lawrences once they have cards, Trey Lance. Because I think volatility. We all love volatility, right? Because that means there's opportunity. So
you love volatility.
The gambler loves volatility.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I'm gonna go with Matthew Stafford.
Okay.
And I know this is not a normal pick, but I really like this one. I for guys like Hyung who like the volatility, I think there's a chance here for his cards to really go, like you can roll the dice here. And then for guys like Clark who want to be conservative, you're sort of putting your money into a possible Hall of Famer, with sort of playing his the second chapter in his career, right? So it's a bit of both. It's a bit of investments for both types of investors, and I really like it. Like this guy played 10, I think, no, actually probably like 12 seasons with Detroit. Absolute bum organization with an elite quarterback, and he's finally gonna get an opportunity to possibly win, right? Like the Rams they're pretty decent. I think their defense is pretty elite. Their offense is with Stafford at the helm. I think they can do some damage. So maybe not this year, maybe next year, but regardless, in this next little like 1 to 3 year window, I think Matt Stafford is a great one for me. His Topps Chrome is like, I think I could be wrong, but I think it goes for around $1,000, and the pop is like under 200. If you're in that ballpark of spending about $1,000, I think it's a worthwhile buy, or at least take a look at it.
Yeah, I like that pick too. He definitely has the pedigree. He's got the career numbers already adding up. So, right. And part of a new team. So yeah, he hit all those points.
Yeah, literally his Hall of Fame status is in question because of his playoff, lack thereof playoff. What he's done in the playoffs. So I think if the Rams make it, if they run up a couple of wins, even just getting to the Super Bowl, maybe he doesn't win, but I think that would be huge for his value and even his Hall of Fame status in the future.
Yeah. Nice. All right, I like both those picks. No one's going with Cam Newton. No one believes.
Everyone's on that Jones train.
He's gonna play for another NFL team though, right? He's got to.
I would think so, but
okay.
I don't know. Did he just get canceled? I don't know.
Okay, my pick's not Cam Newton though. But, I'm going with another QB, Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens.
Nice. That was my other pick.
Was it? Yeah. I love players that have won the MVP or had a really great season, 2019 for him. And then, 2020, he didn't play up to the expectations. I mean, the expectations were sky high. So right. I don't know if anyone could have played up to that. But he took a step back. But then last year, he showed what he can do again. Now going into this season, he's got better tools, Sammy Watkins, Marquise Brown, and he could still run. So I think the team itself is a bit better. And, those guys who have done it before, I love betting on those guys doing it again. And Lamar Jackson's, he's a pretty dynamic player too on the field.
He's a beast, yeah.
Yeah. So I think some people hate him, or some people don't like him anymore. Like they think he's a has-been, but I still believe. I think he has the potential to really rebound this season.
Right.
So Lamar Jackson, and his prism, I think I checked
it dipped.
lately, and it dipped. Down. Yeah, it's like 600 for a base prism, PSA 10. I mean, it used to be at least 1,000 in the prime, right? In his prime time in that 2019 year, but
right.
Totally see it do it again.
Yeah. I think if you're going to bet on any quarterback, though, if you just look at sort of the NFL power rankings and you pick quarterbacks that are kind of in that top 10, like Josh Allen's great because Buffalo's a contender. They're up there. Like Baltimore Ravens are a contender. LA Rams, like they're all up there, right? You got obviously Buccaneers and the Chiefs, but it's sort of like that whole saying about like success by association, right? So I think if you're picking players from the Ravens or you're picking players from the Buffalo Bills, I think that's it wins regardless. Wins is going to help everything, right? So
yeah, and I think Hyung, you mentioned you like Josh Allen. I like Josh Allen too. The only thing about Josh Allen though is like a lot of people are on him already.
Yeah,
so I've already been seeing
his card. Yeah,
well, it's baked in already, right? His cards are baked in. For sure,
100%.
But then, like I was looking at Pop Report, and it's so ridiculous on Josh Allen's card. I'm telling you, even his optic. I think his optic is probably his best card. Personally, I love his optic, and his optic autos are like unbelievable. I think.
Yeah, they're sweet.
Because, they're really like unique because he actually cared on the autos, right, as opposed to the ones in the Prism ones. His pop count is super low, even on optic base. Optic base pop 10s are I think 131 or something like that. Yeah, which is super low. And I think there's tremendous opportunity in stuff like the Optic or even Select. Some of the stuff, like his XRC is like pretty high, I think. But I think there's a lot of opportunities in the lower end cards with Josh Allen. But yeah, I agree. Right. It's baked in. The prices are baked in already.
Yep.
But it could go up too.
True.
Don't doubt the hobby.
And that's one thing to really, for listeners to really think about pop reports. I know if you mention something like Josh Allen Optic pop report is super low, some people might argue, well, it's because it wasn't worth a lot of money and not a lot of people submitted, right? Yeah. But the counter to that is, let's think about what the state of the hobby right now.
Yeah, good luck submitting.
Exactly, good luck submitting. Let's see how many Josh Allen Optics are going to get submitted and when are they going to show up. So if you're looking at low pop right now, and if you're the type of investor that wants to get in something for like a quick flip, I think if it is a base and it's a low pop, there's opportunity here, because you're not going to see that population count really grow in the next 6 to 12 months, right? Mm-hmm. Like by like an enormous amount. So that's something to always think. It's something to always think about, right, when you're looking at these numbers.
Hey, speaking of pop counts, I'm going to bring up another one on my first one. When we talked about Dak Prescott, I brought it up because this was really wonky. So he has a field level, a 2016 field level. It's pop 18. And then that which is ridiculous. Okay, a field level pop 18, and then that field level has a prism. So it's like the silver version, and it's pop 24. Right, so it goes for double the price. So it's about $2,500 US for the prism, and for the base, which is pop 18, which is 6 less, is going for under $1,000. So for me, like stuff like that is like, okay, it has to catch up. Well, who knows? Next sale it could be $1,499 all of a sudden, right? And then $2,000, and then there's your comp, right? Because there's only 18 out there, right? So I thought that was crazy. So I thought that was a great buy under $1,000 too. So
yeah, for sure.
Interesting.
I'm still confused. Like, how is that even possible?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Go check it out. Yeah,
I think
after recording, go check it out.
I could be wrong, but the 2017 Patrick Mahomes field level, when you look at the field level base and field level silver, I remember the numbers not being that far off either. It wasn't like, there's 75 field levels, or whatever, 300 field level PSA 10s and like only 20 silvers. Like, I remember the numbers being not too off. I could be wrong, but something to look up to.
I'm going to look it up after the show for sure. All right. Let's keep this segment going and go to the NBA, since training season is going to start later this month, believe it or not. So same question. Anyone you're targeting this season who you think people are sleeping on?
I wouldn't say sleeping on. My guys. I like my Jazz. I think he's like underpriced. The Tatums, I think there's opportunities there. Like I said, you have up and coming exciting people always every year. And I think that's what kind of drives the hobby as well, because we got to remember like the releases, right? So I get excited for guys like, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green, like guys that are going to make like an impact, right? But it's the worst, because it's like the way Prism is released is like, it's like they get a full season under their belt first. So it's like they build the hype so much there, where that happened with LaMelo as well, right? Where, LaMelo, everybody was hyped. He was, doing his thing, and then, prices, reach astronomical, right? So I'm excited for the youngins. I'm, like I said, volatility is my game. So, you see opportunities. So, yeah.
I promise I'm going to mention this guy for the last time, but I'm going with Karl Anthony Towns.
For sure.
So everyone knows, the new NBA. The new NBA, a top 20 talent does not stay in a losing situation for more than a handful of years. Name one top 20 player in the NBA right now that hasn't switched teams in like the last 3 years. Don't worry, I'll wait. Like, it doesn't exist. So Karl Anthony Towns has been in a losing situation for a lot of years now. He's wasted away his youth sitting in Minnesota, and I think this is, for me, I feel like this is the last year to get into Karl Anthony Towns before it could go up, because something's going to happen this year, whether the Minnesota Timberwolves all of a sudden becomes a contender and makes the playoffs, or they toil in the basement again and Karl Anthony Towns has had enough and he requests to get out of there. I think this is the year something's going to happen with Karl Anthony Towns. And for those that believe in the guy, for those that believe he's a top 20, maybe even top 10 talent, this would be the year to make a move on him.
Johnny, what's his card to buy right now?
Well, I mean, even if you're looking at base Prism, sometimes it sneaks as low as $200.
Right.
But I mean, you can easily snag it for around $225 right now. That's base Prism. Like, that is a card that should be in the stratosphere of, like $500, $600, $700. So one trade, something happens, and you could see that card go to 500 easy. And then if he becomes a contender, like I don't know, he goes to the Lakers or something wild, man, that card could really 3x like overnight. So 225, I mean, that's not a big risk, it's not it's within budget for a lot of people. You're betting on a top 20 talent. Yeah, I'm Karl Anthony Towns all the way.
How did I know you're going to choose Karl Anthony Towns?
Man, I promise last time I'll mention it.
Your Karl Anthony Towns is my Trae Young, so I get it. But I didn't know it was that low. 200, 225. That's definitely worth a play for sure.
Yeah, his courtside I think goes for around 300. Select courtside, and the pop on that, I don't know what it is, but it's really, really low.
That's a better deal.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah,
I'm going to snag one of those.
Nice. All right. So my guy is Jaylen Brown of the Celtics. Nice. And I'm kind of going a little bit deep. Because I feel everyone's on Jason Tatum, of course. He's the stud. And for a while, like, I don't know if you've seen the stats at the beginning of last season. Like, Brown and Tatum were 1A, 1B. And I'm not saying Brown is better than Tatum, but Brown is definitely a talent, and he still plays for the Celtics, right? And I think they're going to make another good run this coming year. I think Brown still has room to grow. His card prices now, it took a dip in the off season, whereas Tatum didn't really. Like, I've been trying to eye Tatum cards, and it's been pretty steady even in the off season. Maybe it's because he played in the Olympics, they won a gold medal, and he's been in the news throughout the summer. But Brown is about 800 for Silver Prism PSA 10. Oh, and you look at other studs for Silver Prisms, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you're paying at least $1,000 for those guys, right? So I think Brown could enter that territory for sure, right? So that's my pick, Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics.
Nice, interesting.
All right, cool. We'll see how our picks turn out for both the NFL and the NBA and our NBA picks. So it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully we're right on our picks and we can make some good flips. So this next segment is brand new, and we're calling it Buy, Buy, Buy. This is where we share. This is where we share what we personally are buying right now, or at least it's on our watch list, just to be more transparent with you guys. And it's also a good opportunity for us to discuss the cards we're high on, that we're actively looking to buy them. Okay, so anyone want to start off the segment?
Well, I've been, like, as I mentioned earlier, I've been ripping a lot more. So this is where, I practice what I preach about, hedging, right? So I've been actually buying more singles for Bowman Chrome prospects, actually. In particular, I'm very high on Robert Hassel. He's with the Padres. He's a 19-year-old kid right now in A-ball. I really like his upside, and I think his prices are pretty cheap. I think they're gonna still continue to, I guess, tumble as we enter the baseball off season. But I really like Robert Hassel and Zach Veen of the Colorado Rockies. I think there's tremendous upside with him. He's gonna be a monster at Coors Field, especially. So I really like the prospecting side, especially carrying through September, October, November, when nobody cares. Everybody's eyes are on, basketball and football right now, or at that time. And then I'm starting to get into a little bit of, or at least looking at some vintage, kind of like more long-term plays. Some maybe Hank Aaron's, 54 tops. Nice. Been watching that.
Love that card.
Ted Williams, I think he's one of the GOATs of all time. So I think zoning in on some vintage stuff like that. And also, I think Bryce Harper is a good buy as well. I think his prices are so cheap. Bowman Chrome autos are going for less than $1,000. You compare, I know he's not like Mike Trout, but like there has to be something in between. It's like the price is not like that different in terms of Bryce Harper and like let's just say a Mike Trout, right? Not by no means am I comparing the two, but there has to be in between. So I think Bryce Harper has a lot of upside on his card value too. So I think he has a lot of options as well. So there's a lot of color available on eBay. So it's a good buying opportunity.
Nice.
Yeah, great picks. I didn't know. I feel like Bryce Harper's been a bit quiet the last couple seasons.
Yeah,
right. When he came up, he was the guy. Like he was a chase guy
he
too,
was,
right?
Yeah, he was the man. I think that fight kind of threw everybody off. They're just like,
right.
Whoa,
right.
like this
Hothead,
is
yeah.
Right. Not even a hothead. The way he threw the punches. Yeah, it was funny though.
But no, I'm looking at his stats now. Like he's batting over 300.
Yeah,
and
he's 29 years
homers.
old.
Yeah, he's rejuvenated his career, man.
He's been in the league for 9-10 seasons, and
crazy.
He's gonna be like a over 10-time All-Star in his career.
Right.
When it's all said and done, right? So.
Right. I like it.
Good pick.
I have been I've been buying Luis Robert. I think it's a simple one. We talked about him enough on this show. His cards were super cheap. I think if you look at his Chrome base, people get a little bit thrown off because he's having the best season of his career. There's no question. He's been flirting the last couple of weeks at batting 340. He's been on a tear since he came back from the injury. I think it's going to just keep going up from here, but it's a little bit deceiving because when you look at his base Chrome and when you look at his flagship, I think the flagship still sells for around $50. And I think the Chrome is still going for around 70, which was sort of the, while he was injured, those were sort of the prices. And people might think, it's not time to move yet because it's still not really moving. Well, you know what? It is actually moving. A lot of people are buying them up. The problem is that everybody who submitted them 9 months ago, they're all flooding onto the market right now. Like everybody's just basically getting them back and dumping it right into the market. So there's just too many on eBay. So that's a little bit deceiving because you're thinking it's not moving, so it's not hype. But actually, people
I bet the color goes up though.
That's what I'm saying, right? So when you look at, for example, this week an Orange Wave, Topps Chrome Orange Wave Refractor PSA 10 just ended on auction, and this is a card during his injury. I think you could have got it for like $1,400 or $1,500, and it just sold at auction for just over 25. I think it was $25.50.
Crazy,
right? Which I still think is a pretty good deal, but
that's
sure,
but the numbered stuff has been really going up. So I've just been searching for, that's not really in my price range. I'm not going to go for the big boys, but I've been searching for little either numbered. I really like Hyung's play on gold, so I've been really looking at anything gold. It can be Stadium Club gold. I picked up the Heritage gold. I've been looking at a lot of golds, and I've been looking at a lot of SP or SSP. So I made a play this past week on the Luis Roberts second year SSP PSA 10 pop 2. I'm sure the pop will go up to like 75, 80, almost 100. But I like it. It's SSP. I got it for a really cheap price. People can, for those listening, go quickly on 130 Point. You can see what I paid. I thought it was a great deal. So Luis Robert, I've been talking about him a lot, and I'm actually buying him. And then on my watch list, I always have I really like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, especially numbered.
Yeah.
So I'm just I always have him on my watch, and I'm seeing if if one of these steals comes along. If I can continue to add numbered Shea Gilgeous, I'm gonna do that. I think this year he's gonna take a big step. I think my opinion, I think he's gonna go to the All-Star game. So I'm big on Shea Gilgeous.
Nice. Yeah, I'm pretty high on Shea Gilgeous too. But yeah, I like that pick. Lewis Robert, yeah, stud. So
yeah.
I don't know if I feel like the boat hasn't sailed, but people are catching on as we get closer to the playoffs.
Right.
And the White Sox are making a good run for it. People are going to notice for sure. So for me, I haven't actually bought a lot lately, but the last two I bought were bigger cards for me, at least. The LeBron James Topps Pristine number to 999 PSA 9.
Yes.
So I was always looking for a numbered LeBron James rookie card that was somewhat affordable, and at the PSA 9 level was just right there for me. So that's for me like one of those I just hold on to and just kind of lock it up, because LeBron's going to be LeBron. and I just see him as a blue chip stock for me. And before the MLB season, I invested in Mookie Betts Topps Update Red Hot Foil card. So, and a BGS 9.5. So I think I shared my Mookie story. I flipped way too early with his first Bowman Chrome Auto, so I can't buy that card again. There's something in me that won't let me buy it, but I still wanted a Mookie Betts card because I think he's going to be, perennial all-star.
His prices are low too.
Yeah,
and he plays for the Dodgers. Like, you know what I mean? They're going to go to the playoffs a few more times at least.
Yeah,
and he's going to contribute at that in that amazing lineup. So. And I love like the color block, when he played for the Red Sox, I'm looking for a red border, those kind of plays. I'm a sucker for those. So I like that. And what's on my watch list? I'm looking at actually like a little bit older basketball cards. I know this is one of your favorites, Johnny, the 2008 Topps Chrome Kobe with LeBron guarding him.
Oh.
So I'm actually looking at a few. I haven't pulled the trigger. I've been close a couple of times.
Yeah.
I think I gotta wait for like one of those auctions that hit just right. It's on off day.
Off day.
And I can get it.
It's like on a Tuesday at 2:30 in the morning.
Exactly. All these auctions right now are ending on weekends, so these sellers know what they're doing right now. But there's got to be one that just on an off day, maybe it gets around 2,500. Right. That's a good price for me.
Oh, so PSA 10.
PSA 10.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's a true gem that's out there for 1,560. Right. I'm tempted by that.
Right.
That's on my watch list right now, but I'm holding out for a PSA 10. And I think people are going to look at that. I feel like it's going to be an iconic card if it isn't already.
For sure, it is already.
So,
that's a trade target for me if the card show happens in Toronto in November.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the cards that I'm going to be thinking of trying to trade for.
Yeah, and I just look at the pop report. PSA 10 is about 321, I think exactly actually, and there's just over 1,000 graded. So those are. Lower numbers for that.
I remember when I first got back into the hobby, right when COVID was hitting. One of the first cards that I looked at, I didn't really know it existed at the time because those were the years where I was sort of out of the hobby. But somehow I stumbled across it randomly because I was searching Kobe Topps Chrome, and it obviously came up. And I thought it was so cool. I thought, at the time it was pretty affordable. And I was going to buy a couple. I didn't end up pulling the trigger because it was, like crazy to think, but it was outside of my budget. It was literally going for like, and nice sharp looking cards. Like Raw was selling for about $75. Wow. And I couldn't pull the trigger. I was like, ooh, that's just too much money to spend on one card. Oh man.
That's so funny.
Yeah. But I remember that was one of the first cards I was looking at when I first got back in.
That should be a segment for the future. When we first got back into the hobby, what weren't we willing to pay for?
Yeah, exactly. And what is it now, right?
Yeah. I know.
Yes, so true.
That'll be funny and painful at the same time.
Yeah, regrets.
I like this new segment. We'll definitely revisit again as we hopefully buy more and get to share that with the audience. So let's move on then to our last segment, which is Pick One. So for this Pick One segment, there's going to be a twist on what we normally do, and this is actually John's idea. But instead of pitting two cards or athletes against each other and then debating which one we invest in, we're going to share two hot takes that can be anything from, I think player X is going to win MVP, player Y is going to win Rookie of the Year. So we're going to share two hot takes and we'll debate which we think is more likely to happen. All right. And I know this was short notice for you guys in terms of preparing for the show. So Johnny and I will have one, and then Hyung, you could chime in on our choices. All right.
Sounds good.
Okay. So I'll go first for this segment. And my first hot take is that LaMelo Ball Panini Prism rookie cards are going to take a 50% dip during this regular season.
Interesting.
I think his hype, like I shared this before, I was wrong about LaMelo Ball. I wasn't buying. I thought he was overhyped, and then he was a stud rookie, and his prices were justified. But I think year two, he's going to come down. Right now, prices for LaMelo are pretty sky high still. But yeah, I think I could see a scenario where it's just going to be a dramatic cut, whether through injury or just not playing to second year expectations. Right? So that's hot take number one. And my second hot take is that Tyler Hero Panini Prism rookie cards are going to triple from what they are now. Okay, so my thinking is Miami Heat. They're going to be contenders. They got Lowry now, our former homeboy favorite, and Jimmy Butler. I think that team's going to gel real nice. And Tyler Hero, I feel like needs one of those kind of mentor types. And Butler was one, but I think adding Lowry to the roster too will definitely help his growth. He'll possibly grow up during this season, and he'll regain his form on the court as well. And, we saw his card value take a real dip at the end of last season even. Mm-hmm. But I see a scenario where you could 3x his card value now and make a nice profit. So what do you think is more likely to happen or likely to see happen? LaMelo Ball taking a dip 50% or Tyler Hero 3xing?
I'm going with Tyler Hero 3xing for sure. I don't see LaMelo Ball's prices taking a dip yet. Because there's some crazies out there still grading, and they're like, pop one. Meanwhile, right? Yeah. I think people are still crazy. I think LaMelo's gonna hold value, and I think Tyler Hero is so cheap that prices are gonna go up. And I agree with you, Clark, in that sense too. It's like he needed someone like Kyle Lowry. I'm happy Goran Dragic is out of there because I told John, I'm like, I think he makes Tyler Hero worse, to be honest. So I'm very happy about that. I think Tyler Hero's prices are cheap, and I'm a Hero believer. And I kind of am a LaMelo believer too, so it was easy for me.
Fair. Johnny?
Yeah, for me, I think it's pretty easy. I think Tyler Hero 3xing is going to be the choice. His card is so low. I'm still big on Tyler Hero. I think a lot of people are big on Tyler Hero. He's not just one of these rookies that was a fluke or a flash in the pan and people kind of bought into. Like, people really believed in the talent. So it's not going to take much for that card to rebound. And 3x is not really asking a lot, right? Like, you're talking about select base at 35 bucks
to 90
going to exactly. Like, it's the odds of it happening are pretty high. And on the flip side, also why I don't pick LaMelo is because in any normal season or normal collecting season, I think it's an accurate statement. But the current state right now with PSA halting their services, that Prism PSA 10 base, I don't see that pop moving that much in the next 6 months because they're just not getting graded, right? So I think that's going to keep the LaMelo prices. I still think they're going to go down, but that's going to keep the prices at bay because the pop is just not out there, right? So come ask me this question 18 months from now, it'll be a different answer. But for this upcoming season, I think because of the pop report and PSA no one's going to put in a LaMelo base on an express service. It's not happening. So you're just not going to see them out there. So yeah, Hero. Yeah.
Can we redo this segment? I'll say Tyler Hero 10xing. This is, you know what? This is our first go at it, so I'm learning with this segment. All right. I guess it's pretty easy. It's a sweep, so I'm going Tyler Hero 3xing too. And full disclosure, I have a few Tyler Hero rookie cards, so I'm hoping that's true. But okay, Johnny, you got one.
I do. So I actually came up with this idea, hot take, after a conversation I had with a friend last weekend, and it was actually his hot take. Shout out to Reggie. I don't know if I doubt he's going to listen because he's not into sports cards, but if he happens to listen, shout out. My hot take is Luka Doncic will never win an NBA championship versus Connor McDavid will never win a Stanley Cup.
Jeez Louise.
And you can make argument like for the I'm going to, some arguments like McDavid. I think anyone who follows hockey, I just feel like the Oilers organization is a bit of a mess. I think they've been really attempting at building around a roster and making good moves, but it's just not working out. And what they have currently constructed, for my opinion, I just don't see them winning anytime soon. And then on the flip side for Luka, if you look at, and this was the argument that my friend made, if you look at the last 20 years of NBA champions, you can almost every year, the champion, the main guy, the top dog on the team that wins is a elite defender. You can make arguments about Steph Curry not being an elite defender. Some people could argue that. Definitely people will argue that he's an elite team defender. But ironically enough, if you look at the list of the last 20 years, the one team that won a championship was the Dallas Mavericks with Dirk Nowitzki. And you could argue Dirk wasn't a good, like an elite defender, right? So that's an argument, and it makes a lot of sense, right? Like you got San Antonio, you got Miami Heat, bunch of LA Lakers wins, even the Raptors with Kawhi Leonard, like it's always the main guy is an elite defender. So what do you guys think?
I'm gonna. That's tough. That's a tough one. I'm gonna. I think Luka's gonna win a championship. He's a champion. I can't. Like I'm hopeful that McDavid will also win a championship, but a Stanley Cup. But yeah, I'm gonna say Luka's gonna win a championship over McDavid. It's a tough one though, because you're right. It's not gonna be easy, but I think Luka has. He's special, and he's gonna be in the league for the next in the 2030s, which is crazy.
Right.
And yeah, I think he's gonna have multiple championships. So yeah, I'm gonna go Luka.
You're going that Luka will win the championship. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's saying McDavid will never win the Stanley Cup. Is basically the choice.
Okay. Yeah. My choice is fairly easy. I think Luka has a better shot at winning the championship than McDavid. And I don't know where I heard this from, and I don't know if you guys agree, but I heard that out of all the four major sports, the NHL is the hardest to win a cup, as a team. And it's because maybe it's a 16-game grind, and every game's, you're coming out just depleted. And also I look at the Edmonton Oilers track record. They had the pieces for so many years, like a lot of hot young stud players. You remember Nugent Hopkins?
They literally had first picks overall
Taylor
for
Hall.
6 years straight or something ridiculous.
They were rebuilding, and they were finally got to that level where they were just a core. It actually reminds me of the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where they have a lot of the hot young core, but they just there's some kind of intangible in hockey where you need everything to break right during the playoff run. And you need to have a really hot goalie as well. And I don't know if the Oilers have those pieces or will get those pieces, even with a talent like Connor McDavid. And on the flip side, it's an interesting stat you mentioned about all the NBA championship teams having elite defensive skills from their top guy. But I think in basketball, one guy can make a bigger influence in the outcome of a game. And
Sure.
I know these years, or I know modern basketball right now is all about super teams, where you need 3 top guys out of your starting 5 to have a chance to win. Yeah. But you know what? I think Dallas could easily form a super team with Mark Cuban at the helm. So I don't think that's out of the question for Dallas. And if Luka's still on Dallas and he has a couple of big studs that he can play with, better than Porzingis, that there's a real possibility that the Mavericks win another championship with Luka.
Yep. Man, this was a lot easier than I thought. I really liked I like the choices because we're talking about 2 young, quote, arguably generational talents in their respective leagues. I think McDavid, without question, is a generational talent. Luka, people can argue, but I personally think he's a generational talent. I thought this was going to be a lot easier. It's going to be a sweep. I'm going to go against my buddy, and I'm going to say McDavid. The odds of McDavid never winning, for all the reasons you said, Clark, I think it's just so much tougher in hockey. Like, the team has to be constructed properly, even with a superstar, and I just don't see it right now. Edmonton has proven nothing to the world that they have the capability of constructing that team, so I don't see it. And on the flip side, for Luka, I just think his IQ is that special, and if people knock on him for not having great individual one-on-one defense, like he's not an elite one-on-one defender, there's no reason why he can't be like Steph Curry and become an elite team defender. And we've seen Luka Magic in the last 2 playoff runs. I mean, he got bounced out in the first round, but last year he almost beat the Clippers and Kawhi by himself. Porzingis was in the corner doing nothing, and Luka literally by himself almost won the series. So I think if the team gets constructed properly, I can't see why, just like Hyung said, he's going to win a championship. He's going to win multiple championships. I see it. So I feel like he'll be the one. He'll be in that Steph Curry realm where people can knock his defense, and it goes against the normalcy and the grain of what's happened historically, but he's that special.
Hey, Clark, I actually might have one for you guys.
Ooh.
Okay, on the spot. Let's go.
On the spot. Let's go. Okay. Since it's more relevant now because it's September and baseball's winding down, right? So everybody, even Vegas, says Ohtani's going to win MVP, right? Yeah. Everybody says Ohtani's going to win MVP, but let me just throw this at you first. What if he hits 250 and like 45 home runs? Does that change things as opposed to like 50 home runs, 100 RBIs, and having like 200 strikeouts or whatever he has or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like he's slowing down a lot, and then you got Vladdy, who's heating up, leading the American League in average, is Triple Crown potential. I believe it deserves a talk. So who's likely to win between those two, or Bryce taking NL MVP over Tatis? Is Vladdy more likely to win MVP over Ohtani, or Bryce over Tatis?
Wow.
Versus Bryce. On the spot.
Nice. I like it. Man, that's you know what I think.
Okay, before I say it, sorry, Johnny, let me just throw this unbiased stat out there. Vladdy's leading in runs, in hits, in average, on base percentage, OPS. Jeez. And he's 2 home runs behind Ohtani.
So he's real legit Triple Crown threat.
Yeah, it's coming down to the last month. And Ohtani's batting average dipped down to 257 now, 43 home runs, right? As opposed to 41 home runs.
Right.
But everybody says it's a lock, right? So
True. But you know what? I'll go first because I'm looking at the stats while you guys are talking. And Tatis has been on the injured reserve list a couple times this season, right?
Right.
And his stats are still unreal.
It's like Nintendo numbers.
90 runs, 37 home runs, 86 rubies, 24 stolen bases, and 278 average. And then you look at Bryce Harper, which is like 29 homers, 83 runs, and 12 stolen bases and 303 average, right? Like, so he beats them on the average.
Right.
So I think here, I think Ohtani's going to win the MVP, but I think it's more likely that Vladdy takes over than Bryce coming from behind and beating Fernando Tatis. So that's how I see it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Oh, this is tough because I think what actually will happen or what could happen, I think the odds definitely Bryce taking Tatis is better odds. Not that Tatis is, all that, not doing that well. It's just, I think Ohtani's, I feel like he's already got it. Like it's already in the bag. Like the 45 homers, doesn't matter about the batting average, the pitching performances and the home runs together, like what he's doing for the game, just everything. Like I feel like it's in the bag. And it's sad to think that Vladdy, let's say, wins the Triple Crown and he's still not a part of that conversation. Right. He deserves to be like a 50-50 race. But Ohtani's been that in such a different stratosphere. So I think I for that reason, I have to go with Bryce. I think that's also not a high odd thing. It's not going to, it's the likelihood of it happening, probably not. But I want to pick Vladdy. We're all watching Toronto, trying to sneak into the wild card spot. They're on fire right now, but I think Ohtani's gonna win it, so I'm gonna have to go the other way and pick Bryce.
Yeah, I guess it's tough because I do believe Vlad deserves like a fair shake.
Yeah.
I there's no doubt. Like I've been following Ohtani all season. It's been one of the most fun seasons to watch Ohtani, obviously. Yeah. Just him even pitching is incredible, right? So going back to like when's the last time, I think the lowest batting average an MVP ever won that title was Mike Trout, and I think he hit 287. So it's like, what if Ohtani ends the season at 240? Because he still has 3 weeks left to play. He's not swinging the bat well. Does that warrant? And that's where I have a tough time swallowing. Where hey, Vladdy helped his team. Potentially wild card. He's actually, and it's a flip side where Ohtani's a goat on the mound too. He's doing this on the mound, but 50 home runs with 10 plus wins and 200 strikeouts is very impressive. Like that's like never gonna be done, right? So that's to me is impressive. But like he's at 43 now. If he's hitting 240 with 43, is it the same? Is all I'm saying, right? So, but like Clark said, if we're going because we're doing the hot takes edition, we're comparing what would rather likely happen, I guess. Right. But and you go back to Tatis now. This guy went from shortstop to the outfield. Like that's, to me, it's like he failed defensively. I know he ran into injuries as well, but he wasn't his normal self at shortstop. Can you fairly just say that just cancels out everything because he's just a monster at the plate, just hitting home runs? He's not as healthy, right? Whereas, Bryce is just putting up a phenomenal season. So, for me, at the end of the day, it's exactly what you said, Clark. It's highly unlikely that Bryce is still going to take Tatis at the end of the day. But yeah, that's my kind of like argument there. I just think Vladdy deserves a fair shot.
He does, man.
And
he does.
We'll see 2-3 weeks from now how strong they finish, because that's still 50 plus at bats left. Right. So, and he's starting to swing a hot bat. Right. So,
well, how about this, to your like Trout and Shohei Ohtani batting average point? What if Tatis? What did you say, Clark? What did you say? He's at 278. Like what if because Tatis hasn't been hitting Nintendo numbers in the last 10 games. He's been on quote unquote a little bit of a cold streak. What if he ends up batting 265? Like what if it's?
I don't think he wins the MVP. I don't think you can give it to him.
Right.
So
that's why I'm
265.
It could happen. He could dip below 270, right? to finish off the season. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And Tatis is such a streaky hitter. And at the end of the day, he could finish over 300.
That's for sure.
That's Tatis. He could go 20 for the next 20 and hit 320 with 45, right?
Yeah.
Like, you just don't know what you're getting. And the odds are probably in that favor, too, that he's going to do something like that, right? So I'm hoping he does.
Tatis is awful for week-to-week fantasy baseball.
Oh, man. He's an emotional roller coaster.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
But that was a good one to think of that on the spot. Man. Yeah. Good job. All right. That was another fun episode. I think we should do this again next week. So I'll give you guys plenty of notice to think of a couple more hot takes. I think it's kind of like when we started our regular Pick One segment. We started cold, like a couple of easy choices. But then we got, kind of creative with our choices. Right. I think we'll get there too with this hot take version of Pick One. So we'll try it again next week. I'll try to think of something a little bit more difficult, and I'm sure you guys will too. Anyway, that pretty much wraps up tonight's show. As always, we'd like to thank our listeners, and we appreciate everyone out there subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. And please share our show to any fellow collector you think would enjoy hearing us really get into a variety of hobby issues week after week. Thanks again, all. We'll see you again next week. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.